You mentioned something that really stuck with me last time during our intro chat that the US football is optimized for participation, not for performance. That's a big statement.
It is, and I'm excited to dive into that at great levels of detail today. But that's absolutely how it's been structured over the past few decades in the US. And participation is lucrative in the United States, whereas performance is not rewarded in the same way that it is all over the world. So the way that the structure has been built, um, folks are motivated by money as they should be, and it's much more lucrative to charge families that have the means expensive club dues and to keep players within that system for as long as they can to keep generating dues. Performance is a very different animal in U.S. soccer. We have the talent, but because the way the structure has been built, our performance has been about the same before all of the investment into the game as it is today. And it has not changed the country's performance. It has not changed the performance of the average American professional player whatsoever.
Yeah. And today I want to unpack that with you, Alex, not just in the US, but globally, what works, what doesn't, and why. This is going to be a very honest conversation. So let's get into it. The following is a conversation with Alex Lubyansky, a former European sporting director and founder of Detroit Metro FC. This is Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast, and I'm your host, Sid Bensalah. Today, we delve into football governance, talent development, and the structural realities behind the global game to uncover genuine stories and insights that truly matter. Thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and supporting the show. If you would like to support the show, please check the episode description for more. Alex, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Sid. So great to connect today.
We had a strong conversation last time. I'm really looking forward to go deeper again today with you. Let's start simple. Take us back, Alex. How did you end up inside professional football environments and what pulled you towards the operational side of the game?
It's a great question. So, while I've grown up most of my life in the United States, the unique purview that I bring is actually was born in Kiev, Ukraine. So when we came to this country, I was very young. And while I went to school here and I built my life here and my friendships, my household was the product of my household. All of us were raving football fanatics, and all of us, whenever possible back then, would try to watch European football. And it was very hard to watch back then. There wasn't global streaming. There wasn't an ability to do it outside of a few days a year that you might be able to pay $50 and catch a game on pay-per-view. But it was deeply embedded within myself. And as I went through life, I naturally was very successful academically with very little effort. There's a lot of themes to be pulled from that because, if you will, when you don't have to work for something, you don't value it. It's just what you have.
Right.
In soccer, I was very, very mediocre, an average player, 5'9", not athletic, very little to write home about, and also a goalkeeper, which made it even more difficult with that undersize. However, because it required so much effort to become in any way, shape, or form good at the game, I fell in love with it even deeper. There's a big difference between a car that your parents give you and a car that you buy yourself. And soccer was the car that I had to pay for with my own money. I worked every single morning. I was lucky enough to have unbelievable coaches and mentors that didn't do it money first. They did it performance first. And what a
Yeah.
blessing that was. And to go from a very insignificant high school player in this country to ultimately having an opportunity to trial with Dynamo Kiev in the Champions League I'm not sure that there have been other Americans that have had that chance even now. It's 2026. My trial was about 20 years ago. I developed an addiction to it. I'll never get rid of that addiction. And I learned so much along the way and was fortunate enough to listen to my parents when they asked me to continue the academic route while I was pursuing soccer. I ended up going to law school. Again, that was quite simple for me. Law school was just another thing I could use my brain to get into, no problem. Not a lot of work. Ended up growing a law firm. Not a lot of work for me to do that. But then I had this unbelievable once in a lifetime opportunity. And that came from years of failing and failing and trying and failing within soccer. Where in 2018, I started a club from scratch. This was before COVID, before Zoom, before popularity of the internet, before you could really work remote. I figured out a way to do it. I started a club that is pretty far away from where I live. I live in Detroit. I started a club in Baltimore.
Yeah.
It took 3 years. And after 3 years, it's the same philosophy I bring to all of my coaching and to all of my observation of the game, trying to align European incentives more with US structure. So I did this in Baltimore as an experiment. We had the number one pick in the MLS draft. We have, at the moment, 4 guys that play a lot of minutes in the MLS. We've sent players to Europe. We've never charged anybody any money, and we never will. So that got investors to be interested in me. And I ended up getting the opportunity to design an intercontinental model from scratch with a professional team in my market in Detroit to coach it, to build a stadium, to do all of the things that could give a domestic team an opportunity within the US under the model as it does exist. And then to go shopping, to go find the club that made sense. The domestic side did not work out, and I learned a lot, and I'm so happy that I went through the process because it's guided my current project. But the European side worked out really nicely. I was the sporting director. It was a project where I won't bore you with all of the details, but the year that I was the sporting director and brought in the technical staff and the player pool and ran it for 1 year from scratch, really, we acquired the club less than a month before the season started. We made history in Andorra, and we made European competition. And to this day, we're the only Andorran club that made it to QL3 of UEFA Conference League qualifying. So by the time we lost to AZ Alkmaar. They have a bit of a budget compared to an Andorran club. But what an unbelievable experience that was. And while this is absolutely laughable and impossible structurally in the United States, people don't even understand what I'm about to say. We made money. When you win soccer games in Europe, you make money. When you win soccer
Absolutely.
games in the United States, no one pays you.
don't.
No one's watching it.
You don't. Just for clarification, earlier I said for my American audience, here we're talking soccer. For my European audience and the rest of the world, we're talking football. I don't know why on earth we cannot get our act together and come up with one common name. So it always frustrates me. Soccer, football, football, soccer. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing your journey, Alex. Fantastic. Again, was there a moment where you realized the game is run very differently behind the scenes than what the fans see, mainly in the US?
So many moments, Sid. It would be hard to pinpoint only one. But
Mm.
I've seen so many of those moments, and they've guided my life philosophy, my sporting philosophy. Um, it is incredibly different. It is incredibly different. It's not some sort of a tagline. It's
Mhm.
night and day different, where participation is all that matters in this country. It's the most participated in youth sport in the country by far. Also, one of the few that is so lucrative. I have not seen other sports able to generate the sort of dues that soccer generates in the US.
Mhm.
It's actually an impressive business. I have to tip my cap to those that figured it out, because it's not an accident, Sid. It's not,
Yeah,
well,
and on that, Alex, during the transfer period here in Europe with the major league, and I'm very curious because I never asked that question. Here for us, it's normal. So we follow our teams and then we're waiting for that period. where there is a deadline and every single team they need to pick their and they need to bid as well, and there is so much that goes behind the scene. Do the Americans understand that process, or is it interesting? Put it this way: is it interesting for the Americans? And the minute they see the dollar sign or the euro sign, do they have a reference comparing to the American football or maybe NBA players when they draft the players prior the season kickoff?
That's a great question. So, if we're talking about the general sporting population within the United States, I think one of the simplest way to talk about it is to go, what's in the media? What's on TV?
Mm.
To you, it's no surprise that transfer day is a sporting event. It's a news event.
It is.
It's massive. The coverage is unbelievable. And in the United States, I don't know that there's any knowledge that we even have a transfer window because there is no consequence. Without consequence, transfer day doesn't exist. Here's what makes transfer day interesting. You're having a bad season. You're mid-season. You're bottom to mid-table in whatever country, whatever league, whatever tier. Every tier has consequence in Europe. All of them. There's not a single one where when you're having a bad season, you simply have a smile on your face. In the United States, you could lose every single match by 30 goals. You're just in Major League Soccer next year anyway. So who cares? Transfer day means nothing.
Right.
There's no window. There's no consequence. And here's the other thing about U.S. soccer that makes it a little bit difficult to watch. It's hard to explain to Europeans. The teams have a set salary band. You have to play within this band with the exception of a few, maybe 3 designated players. It changes a little every year, but it's by design boring. It's by design boring. It's so strange for a country that proffers itself to be built on capitalism to have a sporting ecosystem that's built on nothing but boredom. You have to have the same players as the other clubs, basically. It doesn't matter if you win. It doesn't matter if you lose. You're going to be in the same division next year. All that matters is that you caught, at this point, Sid, it's over $1 billion to secure one of these franchises.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you just win soccer games and spend that money on that pursuit? Because fans would watch that. Then the transfer might matter.
Yeah. And how was the show on the pitch in the US?
I don't know that there is a show on the pitch to speak of. There's a great show off the pitch. The stadiums are beautiful. The game day atmospheres are very well crafted. I think they likely spend more money on making it an entertainment experience than on the soccer. The soccer doesn't really get watched. You go to these events, it's more of an event than a sport.
Right. More as a social event?
Yes. Yes.
Right.
It's networking. It's a networking event. The soccer has no consequence and no fandom because there's no reason to. We don't have the ability to earn anything meaningful by playing soccer well.
Mm-hmm. And the root cause, or one of maybe the cause, is it because it's young? The sport is not really established like it is here in Europe, or is there any other cause or reason?
So without being too negative, I try not to be. This isn't the first league in the United States. There have been leagues before. There have been leagues that got a lot of eyeballs. So, when Pele played for the New York Cosmos, there was a league. That league was filling stadiums. That league ceased to exist. One of the challenges in the U.S. in general is that soccer is not like most popular American sports. Popular American sports, like basketball, have a lot of scoring. Popular American sports, like American football, have short attention spans, which modern society is only pushing more and more. You have to have play for about 6.3 seconds. That actually might be high, Sid. I don't know the exact amount, but it's around there. Mm-hmm. Then there's about a minute off where there's cheerleaders, there's beer commercials, there's distraction. You can talk to your friends, and then you watch another couple seconds. That's the general American sport. When you talk about global football, you don't want to miss a moment because the game is all here. It's all intellect. And you have to manufacture results with a tiny budget against a monster budget.
Yeah.
How much more interesting could that possibly be? So you can take your team tactics from what you actually have to spend, and you can give yourself a chance to win a game intelligently. That's not what an American would consider fun to watch. That's a brain activity.
Brain activity.
Americans don't consume a lot of long form media anymore. The movie industry is struggling. My children, I love my children, but if I don't physically remove smartphones away from them, they're going to be glued to them looking at short form video and
Yeah.
playing Roblox, which also requires zero intellectual capacity. People are shying away in this country from things that require patience, thought, intellect, planning, strategy. Those are all things that soccer requires. There's a reason that a 0-0 game can hold my attention for 130 minutes, including stoppage time, going into a shootout. And the shootout is what kind of bores me, to be fair. I want to watch how they got there. I want to watch the actual sporting meritocracy on display. I want to watch them be slow to take throw-ins if they're trying to kill a game. I want to watch them foul intentionally if they want to kill rhythm. I want to watch this happen. And Americans, they want to watch the basket have a ball go through it every couple seconds. Every couple seconds. I want to see a slam dunk. I want to see something that holds my attention because God forbid I have to think about how somebody with a lower budget can beat somebody with a higher budget. That's too much intellect. And it is challenging. So I actually think Major League Soccer has done a great job to still exist. It's now about 30 years old. It's the first league in my view in American history that has done a sustainable job. And for that I give them a tremendous amount of credit. There are a handful of players that are globally relevant and might go somewhere from the MLS. It's of course a retirement league for really globally relevant players. But Americans have a handful of times found a way to use the MLS to end up somewhere more meaningful. But that's not the focus. The focus really is how do we put this product out there, but actually have revenue come in? And the revenue doesn't come from the soccer. It comes from charging kids to play the soccer and giving them some sort of a vision that that investment can be recouped. And it cannot. If you start doing simple mathematics, there is no tangible way you could make the argument that spending over $100,000 as a youth will ever come back to you in soccer. It might come back in something else, and that's fine. But I would like to see more ethical marketing around what the actual end game is for the American player. And that's why I started my organization. We don't charge anyone any money. We never will. And we're very honest about market value. And we're very intentional with how we structure our programming. Because in our view, if you're an American, at the end of our program, if you joined young enough to have a chance to make this choice, you should probably go to college. Because college will lead you to become a doctor, dentist, lawyer, accountant, teacher, entrepreneur. You're going to make way more money than if you go to college and then go into the MLS draft. And then as an American player, forget the headline number of what the average salary in the MLS is. That, of course, includes the retirees that are actually making that money. Look at the average American player that gets drafted. They never play, and a lot of them never get paid. So the incentives don't align with that marketing schema, and it is troubling to watch that marketing work as well as it does.
Mm. Really interesting. Something has to happen. So let's see with the upcoming FIFA World Cup. Let's see if that will have a positive impact to change the way the whole soccer as a game, as a sport, is perceived in the US, all the way from grassroots all the way to top teams. But Alex, what drew you towards structure, governance, and operations instead of coaching or playing?
Well, I'm not a good enough player. When I went to Dynamo Kiev, I went with the impression that I'll either play actual professional soccer The
Mhm.
salary at that time at Dynamo Kiev, if you got signed, was at least $500,000 a year. That's pretty good.
Mhm.
I,
It
I, I
is.
could buy that 20 years ago.
Mhm.
Or I was going to do something that actually paid money. So I chose the second one. Coaching, I do coach, but it's not something that I plan to do at the highest level because I think I have a better gift, which is governance, structure, player acquisition, coach acquisition, all of the things that a sporting director does. And the reason that I chose that pathway, and you might have picked up on it earlier, I love the mental part of this. I have absolutely no challenge being 5'9" and my arm doesn't extend long enough to cover a Champions League goal where, in the US I was pretty good.
Yeah.
Mentally, I'm bilingual. I speak Russian fluently. I speak English
Mhm.
fluently. I enjoy negotiation. I enjoy structure. My other career in the US is an attorney. I'm a mergers and acquisition attorney, buying companies, selling companies, a ton of strategy.
Mhm.
And it's a perfect marriage where I can build both. I have done so and I will continue to do so because sports, they should be something where if you're doing bad, you get fired. It shouldn't be something where you can just have a bad season and next season you try again. So that's not a stable life. I'm married. I have two kids. I love everything that I do professionally. So for me, I'm always going to keep building both because intellectually, it keeps me happy. It keeps me focused on solving really challenging problems that I believe I'm uniquely qualified to solve. And I'm going to continue both pathways, and I'm going to continue pushing U.S. soccer towards developing a model that is more in line with the one that we have already launched. A lot of people can identify the problems in U.S. soccer. There's millions. It's not hard. There's a lot of parents that don't like paying. I'm one of the parents. My kids both pay money to play youth soccer in this country. That's
Mhm.
fine. What I won't do is pay money and be tricked as to why. I know why I'm paying. I
Yeah.
know why I'm paying. And I'm okay with it. The only thing I won't do is I will never let either of my kids try out for my team because that's bias that I won't live with.
Yeah.
My team is free. My team is only for the elite of the elite. And my kids don't belong on it, and they never will.
Mhm.
And I'm just building it and giving the blueprint and the model away completely for free. Because here's the other thing about US soccer that's really, really difficult to come to terms with. When you buy into one of the leagues that currently exists, you acquire a territory. Think about that, Sid. You can't
Interesting.
have
Mhm.
competition geographically. How are you going to have a derby match? It's incredible. It's so hard to explain this to everyone else in the world. I know that. I know how hard it is. But my goal with my organization is that mine is the worst one. I want not someone in California to beat my team in Detroit. I want my next door neighbor to beat my team in Detroit. And as a matter of fact, we launched an event where if my next door neighbor beats my team, we just give them $10,000. Nobody in US soccer has thought to put any money on the line in reverse.
Right.
In reverse. First, we see if you have money, then we extract all that we can, and then maybe you have to play soccer. We're doing it in
Wow.
reverse.
Wow. I'm trying to get my head around. We spoke earlier about the difference here in Europe. We optimize performance, in the US participation. And when I say performance, don't take me wrong. When we talk about grassroots, entry level is all about participation. Now, and it's free. So everything is provided here, and it doesn't matter which country in Europe you are. You want to play soccer? No problem. Join your club, and it's easy. So, and then it's up to you. If you're talented, if you have the right qualities, then you're gonna get picked up, and then you go to different level, and so on and so forth. But I'm just curious here, why the difference between Europe and US? Is it more cultural, Alex, or is it structural? Since we talked earlier about structure, governance, and what is it?
You're asking about grassroots soccer and participation. I couldn't agree with you more. The really hard part, Sid, is the way that grassroots soccer is structured in the United States. When I say participation, that costs a lot of money here. We don't have grassroots soccer for the most part that is free at all. That might last when somebody is 4, 5, 6 years old. But as they get a little bit older, not because they're good, but because they can afford it and
Mhm.
because the structure has been built this way, they're being charged a lot of money. And I could get into how they execute that model. And if necessary and helpful for your viewership, I'm happy to do that. But that's grassroots soccer here. It is a revenue generating monster. Youth clubs with no professional team on top, by the way. Don't
Mhm.
need a professional team. Again, professional soccer here, no one watches it. Youth clubs make 10, 20, 50 million in revenue per year. They expand out of their local market into adjacent markets, and mergers and acquisitions in youth soccer are massive. Massive. You're eating up clubs. When I was a kid in the US, you played grassroots soccer. I played for Farmington, my city, for almost free, couple $100. Awesome. Awesome. And I played against other cities. Awesome. Didn't have to leave home to go play somebody because there wasn't this deceptive element. And if I was special, then I could make the state of Michigan team, then the Midwest team, then the national team. But if I wasn't, I just played in my city. Now, clubs like that are just dying and being eaten alive by these mega clubs,
Mega clubs,
which
yeah.
all they're doing is buying those clubs up. And now those same very, very average players are paying 4,000 a year to be there.
Mhm.
Or you're going to one of these residential academies. It's another model, very popular. And to do that model, now it starts to get a little bit more intellectually interesting, Sid. That model is structured as follows. You have to move away from home. You are going to live there and by every piece of appearance look like a pro athlete. Perception, yes.
Mhm.
But here's the reality of what it is. If you go to one of those, there might be between 3 and 5 players who are not paying to be there. They're on a scholarship.
Yeah.
Then between number 5 and number unlimited, and I say unlimited because it's true. I wish I was making this up. Every one of those players is paying between 35,000 a year and I've seen 85,000 a year.
Wow, it's crazy.
It is, and it works.
I see clear the yeah. Let's talk about pay to play. Why it is such a fundamental problem for talent development?
So many reasons. So many reasons. Pay to play is toxic for player development. It's great for player retention and revenue extraction. But for player development, uh-oh, it's not made for that. It's not designed for that. There is no logical or rational way to tie pay to play to actually improving your ability to be globally relevant in soccer. The guys in the US who end up being globally relevant in soccer, it's a foot race to Europe. How do I get to Europe as early as I can? And historically, there have been some stories where either by virtue of a European Union passport or by virtue of a parent who was able to move, unrelated to your move, of course, because their profession took them there, you could go younger. FIFA's clamped down quite a bit on this, and I think it's good that they have. I
Yeah.
really think it's good that they have. Now there's rules, regulations, restrictions, boundaries, ethical considerations abound as well. I think clubs have done a really nice job trying to be in line with this because forget the US, there's so many other actual global export markets, and I do think it's exploitative in many instances. But now you have to be 18. So let's compare those markets and what they produce and how. Those markets, by the time they're 18, those players, their optionality generally is, I'm going to become a top tier pro and make a massive amount of money if I am a top tier pro and help my family. And I'm playing for much more than just myself. I am changing the lives of those around me. The average American player at 18 is already wealthy because you couldn't play when you were 6 if you weren't, by the way. You just didn't start playing. You played basketball, you played football, you played something you could play. You're already wealthy. So that desire, that hunger, that heart, the heart, it kills me. How many out of this market want to go there to help raise a family? Yeah. To help change, to help the basketball? There's a lot of amazing stories in the US. Players that have come from nothing, they've become everything, they've given back, they've built foundations, they've made schooling free, they've paid for other people's school lunches. Happens every day. In soccer, it's just a bunch of rich kids that played when they were 10 against other kids that were 10, when they were 11 against other kids that were 11, all the way up. And by the time it's senior level football and mommy can't talk to the European sporting director, I ran a club in Andorra, Sid. I wasn't running Manchester United. I didn't sign an American. Why would I? There's real players. The market has hungry, real players that earned their way in. They didn't buy their way in. And there's your disconnect. And that is why the pay-to-play model is systemically failing the average American player who does have talent. Because by the time it becomes important to showcase that talent, they have been failed daily for their whole childhood. And how can they possibly compete against an actual soccer player? They cannot.
Is it fair to say in the US, the system, since we're talking about the system and maybe a possible root cause or a reason to explain why it's like this, is it fair to say that the system in the US filters by income before talent?
I think that's an incredibly accurate statement, except for my club. And hopefully a lot that listen to this and start a club like mine. We're building a third door for a reason. We're building a new pathway for a reason. Because the talent has always been here. There is so much athletic talent. Nobody doubts it. There's not a single European sporting director that doesn't know that an American athlete has talent or athleticism or ability. What we don't have is a brain. What we don't have is the childhood and the challenge to grow up and learn how to win soccer games against superior opposition or older opposition or more physical opposition or dirtier opposition. There was a short time in my life where I coached pay-to-play soccer in this country. I once won a game and then the other team sued our team for winning. That's allowed in this country. This is systemically failing to produce anybody because of the way that it is structured. And it needs to change. And I don't know if I'm lucky or what the words are, but I am not
I think your timing is, you are in the right timing. That's what I
am starting this and I'm showing it and I'm telling the world about it because I want it to be done by people with more money than me, smarter than me, better than me in every way. And I want to be the worst team that does this model, not the best.
So you built your team, which is the Detroit Metro FC, with a different philosophy, listening to you, Alex, and our audience, for sure, they will have the same reaction. What was the reaction been so far?
Big challenge, Sid. A big challenge. The reaction is great, but our ability level is still low, and I'll tell you why. It is very hard to even explain this model to an American player. So there's a tremendous amount of skepticism. And where does that skepticism come from? Well, first of all, the American player generally has a couple of people paying for them to play. Those people make decisions. The player just kind of shows up. There's not a lot of intrinsic motivation within the average American player. So the people paying for them to go somewhere have a lot of skepticism and fear. I mean, if you come to my tryout, I'm not mean. I'm just a sporting director that worked in Europe. So I will ask you to turn around and go home very quickly. When I tried out for Dynamo Kiev 20 years ago, mommy and daddy weren't there trying to convince them that we can afford to play for Dynamo Kiev. Mommy and daddy don't get to go on the military base where that training happens. You go, you play, and guess what? They told me I'm not good enough. That stuck with me. I love that. I need that in my life. So for people to show up to our tryout, mommy and daddy don't want them to. And then if they do show up, it's not fun. It's not pleasant. It's not modeled for retention. It's modeled for performance. So if you were good yesterday, but you're not today, I will replace you today. I don't wait 3 years because you're paying me money. I will replace you now with no emotion and with pure respect, by the way. My favorite stories are the following ones. I tell a player they don't belong in my club. They go to the club next door. They score a goal against my club, and I cheer for them because they stepped up and they proved me wrong.
That's the power of sport, man.
Going on, man. That's the story. And early days, the hesitation is usually, you're eventually going to charge money. This is just marketing. It's free. It's a big American thing. Oh, it's free for the first year, and now it's $100,000 a year. It's better.
What's the catch? Yeah, the catch. Sorry, yeah.
There's no catch. There's nothing that will ever make me charge a penny.
Yeah.
Because my free model is the most expensive model in the United States because I don't have to adhere to anything that anybody says to me. I have 100% autonomy. I tell you to go home. I love that. I will not take money. You can't buy your way onto my team. You can't write me a pretty letter to get onto my team. What's going on in this country? People get onto teams. Genuinely, we're qualifying for the income level of the parents before it matters how good you are. It's unreal to me. Yeah, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
For now.
The US uses a franchise model. Here in Europe, we use promotion and relegation. I don't know if the term relegation is common in the US. Why it matters, Alex?
Then it means everything. It means everything. It means you're not protected. It means you have to compete. It means if you're having a bad season, you better spend in the transfer market. You better outlay intellectual capital. You better replace your manager. Managers don't stay in jobs in Europe. You don't just stay in a job.
No.
You're replaced. And if the replacement's not good, they're replaced. Because in Europe, dropping a division could be the end of you. It's not a pleasant ride to get relegated, but it is a genuine one. And it is a meaningful one. And it makes the football have consequence. It makes every game matter. Yeah. So relegation might be the most important concept in all of sport. And it's one that Americans simply don't even understand. How can I invest $1 billion knowing that next year I might lose it? Well, maybe people will watch now. No one's watching it. Why? What's there to watch? Mm-hmm. If there's no consequence, there's no fandom.
You're right.
So, yeah. Relegation is one of the most important structural mechanisms in all of sport, and we as a country are failing to implement it. And I look forward to the day that the federation, it can't be a league because the leagues are like youth soccer clubs. It's the same. So my club, it just has to fit into the U.S. ecosystem in whatever way possible. And we're well funded. Don't get me wrong. We could do other models. Mm-hmm. But we choose our model because as it exists in the U.S., it's the only one that allows us to tell our story, allows us to actually have a sporting club, not a participation club, and allows us to do it for many, many, many years. Longevity is key. So let me tell you about my tier of U.S. soccer because it's almost impossible to explain.
Go ahead.
Division 4. You would think that because we're in Division 4, we simply do really well and then we're in Division 3. Or we do really poorly and we're in Division 5. Nope. You would also think that we're in Division 4, meaning we're in Division 4 by ourselves. Also not how it works. So if I were to walk outside of my house and I were to take a soccer ball and hit a side volley, I'm not hitting another club. There's many of that. I'm hitting 8 other Division 4 leagues, none of which play against my club.
Yeah.
So if I'm
It doesn't
not,
make any sense.
I want to
Doesn't make any sense.
somehow make it seem like I am, all I have to do is switch my league. Now I'm still in Division 4, but we just don't play Detroit Metro FC. So yeah. Or the number of clubs that play in our free of our, we give 10,000 to the winner and we don't charge a penny. No one's playing in this thing willingly. It's a lot of pressure on them. Year 1 was very poorly participated. Year 2, now we have 21 clubs playing us. Now we have something cooking, Sid. Because now the ones from the other leagues are coming in and let's do this. Let's compete.
Yes, you said it earlier. The governing body in the US, the federation, should have a unified system where you have promotion and relegation. When you have this, it creates competition. It creates stress, and it's good. That stress is good because everyone has to roll their sleeves, train hard, do your very best to either keep your position or go higher. Otherwise, the risk is you're gonna drop. It creates stories. It creates a hype within the supporters, the fan base. It attracts media. If there is a team close to be dropped or relegated, that's more story, more hype, more media, more content, because people get disappointed, pissed off, they start crying, people cheering. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's just, I really hope, man, I really hope that one day we see the same system, because it works here in Europe. And it's been, like you said, 3 decades or more than 3 decades. Since the Second World War, the whole system, the whole soccer is being revamped. And we see even, look, let me give you a very simple a question that sometimes some colleagues or friends, they ask me, not Europeans. You have cities, poor cities, small population. They don't have heavy industry or manufacturing or tech or even hospitality industry. But then they have a very strong, powerful soccer team, club. And that club is everything for that city. It's everything. If they lose, oh my God, it's like, and if they win, the power of soccer in the rural areas here in Europe, in the small areas, is just beyond belief. And that's what it is. We hate it or we love it. It's working. And in the first division, or even, during the transfer period and transfer windows, you see this crazy amount, massive figures, and you ask yourself why it's like this, and think because there is very strong foundation underneath. Yeah, it's.
I don't think there's enough time in the day to cover what you just.
Is it?
Spoke. But
yeah,
if you don't
go
mind,
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Because again, I was born in Ukraine, came here, so I still have, and I'm very lucky.
How old were you, Alex, when you came to the US?
3.
Yeah.
So I still have my parents, and stress. it's incredible. It's the concept of stress in the US is so hard to even explain to the average European. The concept of stress is not a negative word, Sid.
No, it's not.
Stress is necessary.
Build character.
There's a great book,
grit.
Coddling of the American Mind. And it's all about this. And my parenting is all about this. And I can only imagine what other parents think of my parenting in the US. I can tell you I don't care what they think. But I will tell you that my children are going to fail. They're going to get pushed. They're going to actually make something happen because they're not just going to wait for me to do it for them. And that stress, that responsibility, that makes society run. That makes champions. That makes towns like the ones that you described have a pulse. That makes culture happen. If all you're doing is waiting for mommy or daddy to write an angry letter to your school teacher, and that's why your grades are good, how on earth are you going to become a meaningful member of society when you're quote unquote an adult? Our adults are not 18. Our adults are 50. It is now not normal. Kids aren't even driving cars when they're allowed to. I flew out of my house. I flew. I was trying to get to Champions League football, whatever I could, the second I could leave. Not because I don't love my family. I love my family deeply. But I had a world to go conquer. The average American kid is just waiting for mommy and daddy to get them into college. There's documentaries on it. They just have to pay to get into college. It's not just soccer. Every single part of their life and their pathway in these circumstances is being stressed for them by their parents. The parents are stressed. These kids are just waiting, man. And it is so hard to sit silently and let it happen when I have such a profound passion for life and such a gratitude, because there are good parts of the US. The opportunity is unlimited.
Yeah,
Someone
it
like
is.
me could do anything in this country. If I didn't leave Ukraine, I'd be doing something a little bit different. I get that. And I'll never repay that to my parents. I love my parents. But my God, if you just step up in this country and try something, you're a mile ahead of everybody else. There's so many idle passengers just waiting to get something given to them. Go take it. And that's what my club's about in Detroit.
Yeah, yeah. Since we were talking about promotion and relegation here in Europe, is it realistic to think maybe one day US will adopt the same system, or it's out of reach?
My life goal is to be the first person that builds an organization that gets another to do it and another
Mm.
to do it. And I'm not looking to get rich off that. The exact opposite. I'm already doing just fine, Sid. I think it's going to take something like this to give us any chance. Because no, if nothing changes, it works. There's entire youth sports cities popping up. They're multi-billion-dollar cities that have come up in farms where people just go to make their kids look like they can play a sport well.
Mhm.
And I take my kids there. It's a great city. Expensive hotel, beautiful restaurants, so fun, so entertaining. Oh, why change? It works. Private equity firms are making a lot of money. My law firm, I'm not upset from
Mm.
that perspective, but we're never going to win a World Cup this way. We're never going to produce a top 10 global talent this way. We're never going to matter in an arena that is one of the last true meritocratic arenas in the world, which is sport. It's all that we have to hold on to, man. COVID was okay as far as, media, everything. It was on every day. COVID, 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 COVID. There was only one story big enough, one in the world, to take media coverage off COVID, and that was the European Super League. And how scary was that? Because the American model tried to go over there. That's my biggest fear. You want to tell me what scares me and what keeps me up at night? Is that not that America doesn't get promo rel, because that's probably realistic that we don't. There's too much money not to have actual soccer. It's that we convince people over there that there should be a European Super League. I will not sleep at all if that happens. That is a nightmare for me. And I know that there's a handful of people in a small room talking about it as we speak because it just failed the first time. They might try again. I don't think there's a
Mm.
lot of people in the US trying to do what I'm doing yet. And
Yeah.
my dream is that we get more of that quickly.
Mhm. I believe here, like I said earlier, the foundations are really strong. Between all the countries, and the system here very well, Alex. Just look at the likes of UEFA. We've seen some controversies a couple of years ago, some tentative of breakout, creating a new league, but it failed. It doesn't matter how much money you have or who's funding or who's behind, because we respect and we believe the governing bodies in different countries. And I think the sport here is well structured, you know. And this is what, and then you have the fan base you have, which is very strong and powerful, and they have a say. Look, the Premier League in UK, for example. We were talking about promotion and relegation. Look how tough and hard and brutal. It's absolutely brutal in the UK. It's very interesting, but you said something that there is so much potential in the US. The country is massive, and the sport is, I mean, anyone can take a soccer ball and go outside in the street and kick some, it's one of the most simplest, not expensive sport in the world. Okay, if you want to buy a jersey and stuff like that, and proper shoes and things, okay, it's going to cost a couple of dollars, but that's it. Absolutely, it's not from an entry point level. You don't need to be wealthy to play soccer. Full stop, period. I understand folks out there using this platform to make, the amount you described earlier is just crazy.
Sure.
My audience here in Europe, they're going to scratch their heads. Wow. It's, but then it's a complete, there is no link between proper structure. The minute you start as a novice from grassroots all the way to whatever,
No, I can tell you so much more, Sid, because I know the American market intimately. This is not an accident. It is a design. It is designed in
But then how
order.
do you explain the success of the, sorry to cut you, Alex, how do you explain the success of the US women's soccer team winning the World Cup? How do you explain that?
Simple. We have a lot of athletic talent, and early the women's team was very dominant, very dominant.
Right.
And over time, we're still globally relevant. Of course we are.
They
A
are. They
very
are
strong,
one of the
very,
best.
very, very strong country.
Yeah.
But it's no longer
The
guaranteed that
same.
they're going to win.
Yeah.
Because now there's been investment from other countries into the women's game. Other countries have talent, they just haven't had the investment. So now that that's happened and accessibility has grown and grassroots participation has grown, the US is still an excellent women's soccer program, but they're being caught up to. Men's soccer is very different. Men's soccer, we didn't have a head start where athleticism alone could give us a shot. So those successes, I believe, only strengthen the point that the talent is here. Again, the talent within men's soccer is here. It is just not being given a chance to exist in an honest environment, in an honest way, to make us globally relevant. And that is by design. And I don't want to bore you, maybe it's another day, but that design, I can surgically break down how they've successfully built the youth soccer industry, because it is not an accident. When I say that Tier 4 has 8 leagues, youth soccer has so many leagues that I couldn't begin to address them all. And that is a design. Your kid in your city will never play the average kid from the other city close to you. They will both travel far away to appear that they are good. It makes them feel like they are good. They spend a lot of money to feel cool.
Yeah.
But there's no design that says you have to play locally and gain anything by competing. The design is actually the opposite. It's confusion by design. We don't have, within a club, and these clubs that are making the dollar amounts I said, they don't have just one team per age group. They have 50, 70. And
That's how yeah.
they're not labeled first team, second team, third team, because once again, Sid, that would be a little bit too clear. Clarity is the enemy of this system. So they're named colors. And those colors at one club don't correspond with the colors at the club next door. So if you're on the black team here and they're on the blue team there, no one knows. That's not an accident. And all you need to do is brag. I'm on this club, the purple team, and we just went to Las Vegas for a tournament. Oh, I'm on this club, the silver team, and we just flew to Sweden for a tournament. And it's mind-numbing.
Yeah.
And it's built that way to perpetuate the system and to grow the system. And it is a very, very lucrative system. This is no accident. And it will continue unless there's an intentional effort from somebody who doesn't have any skin in the game in that system, which I never will. I have no interest in that system. And we will lose to that system for a while because we should, because that is the system in the US. In Detroit, again, my kids play for that system only because I won't let them play for me. But once my neighbor starts a team, they're out of that system, man.
Right.
They're out of it.
Yeah.
It's just my neighbor. I'm crazy for another 6 months.
In terms of participation, do you see more girls than boys or more boys talking about the
think
success?
It's about equal for participation. I will say that college is still, from a rational purview, the end game for the US player. You go to college, you might go for free. And if you go for free and at a good college, that's hundreds of thousands of value, and you're going to graduate and get a real job. The girls' game, the women's game, has almost double the opportunity of the men's game because we have laws in place. One of them is called Title IX, and you have to have the equivalent number of female athletes within a university as male athletes. So the actual money-making sports are not soccer, of course. It's the biggest one is football, college football, huge. So college football teams have a lot of scholarships to give out, and the best teams in the country are Division I college football teams. About 100 players on that team. So to offset that team, they need about 100 female athletes. That often means a soccer team. So there's roughly double the amount of college scholarships for female players as men's players. The hard part for both is this isn't a secret to foreigners either. And the hard part for both is that foreigners came up in a real soccer ecosystem playing competitively. So if you look at college soccer in the US, it's no longer really American players. It's predominantly international players. So that opportunity is shrinking for both as well.
Interesting. Let's step outside the US territory. Countries like United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they have invested billions into soccer. Why hasn't that created dominant football culture?
It's created dominant spending.
It did. It did.
But dominant football culture, I think you got to make your own sauce. You got to make your own sauce. So if you have a youth infrastructure that's correctly structured, that's given time to breathe and given time to develop, and your players themselves are growing up and then representing your own local communities, and it's, a structure analogous to that in Europe that didn't get made overnight. We're talking century here. There's their challenge. Major League Soccer and soccer in the Middle East, they're really similar. We're talking about a very similar pathway for a real player. It's a retirement league, but if you're really trying to be globally relevant when it matters, and I understand the actual elite athlete mentality because I have it in other parts of life. I'm just not good enough at the sport to be elite. Those guys want to be the best in the world. And you can't be the best in the world just by taking a big paycheck and playing in a meaningless league. So there's your challenge. They're not getting them in their prime. They're getting them. Think about it. It's a financial incentive. I'm either struggling now because I was playing Champions League football in a meaningful top 5 league, but my minutes are at risk. There's young guys coming up. I'm getting a little bit tired. Maybe there's a drug problem. Maybe there's what. It's not easy. This is not fun. No one has fun playing anything. It's competition. It's conquest. It's meritocracy. That's why we watch it, but it's not fun for them. The media pressure, all of that. Now imagine that you're making, 20 million a year, killing yourself every day to try to be the best. You're not the best. You know that now. But you could make double, triple, 10x and go play against far worse competition where far fewer people actually care. They just want to buy your jersey. That's a much nicer little slope off of the game. And that's where they're catching these guys, is that decision. I understand it. Yeah, I just don't have the talent to ever have to make that decision in soccer as a player.
What is clear, it's since we're talking about the Middle East example, money is not enough to build the football ecosystems. But how on earth, let's say tomorrow, let's say your city in Detroit, they will reach out to you, Alex, and say, listen, we want to build a strong culture, soccer culture in our city. We want to invest, we want to support. What's the best model to do it? Because it is clear money is not enough.
They would, at the risk of sounding crazy or egotistical, be best served spending their money doing exactly what my club is doing. Privately funding ourselves, having an honest meritocracy, having an honest ecosystem, taking our time, being slow, being methodical. The guys that have gone through my program, one is now playing in Germany, not at the highest level, but not bad.
Okay.
One is now playing in Australia, good. Not at the highest level, but not bad. And the ones that are still here, they're killing themselves. We train harder than anyone else. It's not fun, but it makes you feel like you're part of something, and it makes the football real, and it makes the consequence real. We lost the Merit Cup last year. I'm really proud of that. We cut a check to somebody for $10,000. Awesome. Our guys cried. You know how few Major League Soccer players have ever cried at the end of a game? What's there to cry about? Next year, you're in Major League Soccer. No one cares.
Yeah. It's obvious that if you don't have the right system, the right mindset, and the people that rally together to create a culture, put it this way, within that community, because the way it's run, the way I look at it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 100% run like a business, period. No more, no less, We spoke about the example of Middle East. Same thing happened in China. They invested heavily in soccer and they failed yet again. Alex, what should others learn from those failures? Talking about the Middle East example and China.
Soccer is unique. Football is unique. It's not something where you can just buy your way into people caring. It's actually the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. You have to build your way into people caring. And in the established leagues, the coolest part of all of this is in the established leagues, when you do have a giant where their player wage bill is over $1 billion and they lose to a tiny little team.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's the magic. That's what keeps people coming back.
Yes, that's true.
Who cares about a bunch of rich people playing against each other with no consequence?
Yeah, I love it. I love those kinds of situations and examples. Yeah, I really love it. We spoke about two examples here, China and Middle East, but let's bring some kind of a completely different contrast, with Brazil and Argentina, for example. Less money, poor infrastructure, mainly stadiums and pitch and stuff like that. And they constantly produce top notch elite players. Why?
One of their biggest national exports. I know a lot of them and I love them. And if I ever have the choice between an export from those countries and an export from the one where I happen to live, it's not a choice. It's clear. You look at it, they're on a beach, and the first thing they do, which costs nothing, is they develop a relationship with the ball and a joy for the game that is intrinsically motivated. Intrinsically motivated. My children's toys are this.
Yeah.
Their toys are my first toy when we came as immigrants to the US, a ball. And they build a relationship with that toy. They don't wear shoes, they touch it with their bare feet. That helps. And by the time it's a money-making pursuit, they have built the technical acumen at a level that we never will. Because for us to justify our system, you have to compete against other 5-year-olds and win sometimes. What? It's a toy at 5. It's a toy at 6. It's a toy at 7. It's a toy at 8. I'm pretty sure Ronaldinho actually was smiling playing for Barcelona. I don't think that was fake. He has something inside of him that even though it's so hard and even though you have to kill yourself every day and you have to eat right and you have to discipline yourself, that joy is in them. So to me, the reason that they have that success is what is their optionality? That is their favorite thing in the world, and it's not mommy and daddy giving it to them. It's them believing in it. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. When that national team loses games, people cry.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's a war in the street.
People change the channel if they even had it on in the first place, which they don't often do. There's your difference.
Does scarcity actually produce better athletes, better players?
I think it does. I think that there's 2 ways to become an elite player. One is scarcity. And the other is intrinsically motivated, but very well funded. So if you look at American basketball, there are players that came from a lot of money. And they did hire private trainers when they were 6. And they did train every single day. And they did invest millions of dollars into their youth development. And they did become the best players in the NBA. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's cool. But for the average fan, you know which one people gravitates towards more.
Yeah.
It's more interesting to watch when there is a life change that occurs and you become more emotionally invested. So there's 2 ways to do it. On average, I would say yes, scarcity is more successful, but I don't want to detract from the concept that you really could invest your way into elite athletic development. But I don't know. Rocky IV, Ivan Drago versus Rocky. What a movie. It's a real tension, but I emotionally connect more with the ones that came from nothing, of course.
I mean, we've seen it for decades, top athletes, quite often they come from tough environments. Like you said earlier, you described it beautifully, low income, poor families, struggling families, and their only way out is to find something that they have the qualities, the inner qualities, and work hard and make it happen. It's we can name thousands of top athletes in various sports, and that's quite often led me to think that adversity does produce elite athletes. Yeah. Okay, so looking ahead, can US soccer fix its system? Maybe with the World Cup, and I hope the World Cup will have a positive impact, not only from the show standpoint and from following and cheering and supporting our favorite national teams, but what legacy, what impact will leave for US soccer after?
If I didn't believe that the country had the ability, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. We have the ability. What I don't know is whether anyone with the power within the federation is willing to step up and change it, because it is the system and the structure. It is not the ability. So the World Cup, my fear and my prediction is that we will do very mediocre as far as a team performance level. Is that there's already a proliferation of everything we've seen in the US. Ticket prices are insanely high. It's a networking event. It's not a sporting event. I'm going. Of course I'm going. I love it. I'm going to go watch a game. But it's very hard to go watch a game. The average ticket price is massively high compared to any other event. It's a who's who type event. That's all that it is.
Yeah.
And will it
It's a
by
shame.
itself change US soccer? No, it really won't. Only if we play bad enough and someone with enough power cares enough will things start to change. And I will do everything within my power to be one of the first ones to actively put my model out there, to get rid of the franchise model, to get rid of the pay-to-play model, and to do something autonomous with merit, unique, and it's affordable. It's affordable. You just need to have a brain. You have to be risk-taking and have a brain. But we already have about 1,000 fans going to all of our games. There's some revenue. We already have 25 corporate sponsors. There's some revenue. And I want someone to do it better than us tomorrow.
If someone wanting to start a club in the US, what should they understand first?
They're up against a monster. They're up against a system that is designed the way that we talked about all day today. Mm-hmm. And if the reason for you starting the club is to have a business, fine, go for it. You're not a bad person. You just want to make money, fine. But if the reason for starting a club is to improve the quality of not just our football, but of our society, do it different. That's my message.
What gives you hope for the future, Alex?
Kids.
Yes, they are the
my
most
kids go to school
thing.
with other kids who are raised a different way than they are. And my kids are thriving. And I know that we have the talent. I just think we need different incentive design and a different purpose behind everything. And we might start to matter again because our entire culture and society is on the way down. It is not just soccer.
Yeah, sadly. And like you said, we live in digital age where smartphone, it's like a body part, man. It's like a body part, and it's crazy. Do they have any European soccer star they follow? Or?
No, my kids don't watch soccer. They know them. They know who Mbappe is.
Yeah.
Do they watch it? No, I mean, my kids are kids.
They don't. Yeah.
They're American.
I was happy to see. I was happy to see a couple of days. Was it last? I think it was last week. Yeah, the WNBA finally they start to make a smart move to push the salary cap for the players for the women's basketball, which is nice to see because those ladies, they've been since 2022, I think. Post COVID, they've been delivering and putting such a great show everywhere, and even here in Europe. I mean, out of nowhere, suddenly we found ourselves hooked following the WNBA. You know,
love it. You watch Caitlin Clark at all?
Oh yeah, big time, and it all started with the controversies with the injuries.
My God, yeah, for sure. What a story, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's a fun. I mean, she's popular here in Europe. Huh? She's popular, and Was it last year she showed her skills on a golf course? As well, I think 2 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those examples, and I wish that one day the U.S. soccer will follow suit. So let's stay hopeful. You're listening to the Pre-Zero Sports Talk. For more conversations on sports leadership, faith, performance, and innovation from Sweden to the world, visit prezerosportstalk.com. It's time for our lightning round. Ready for speedy Q&A?
Let's go.
First, soccer memory.
Andriy Shevchenko against Barcelona in the Champions League. Lighting it up. Goal after goal. Teenager.
Right. A coach who shaped you.
Jeff Shook. Coached me for free every day for 900 days. Unbelievable. What a person.
Best stadium atmosphere. Let's pick one in Europe and one in the US.
Copenhagen in Europe. Detroit City FC. Detroit City FC is a lower tier American team. They're playing in Division 2. Best stadium atmosphere I've been to.
Nice. Favorite soccer city?
London.
One club you admire? Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yes. Yeah. One broken thing in soccer, globally?
Corruption.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. A player you admire?
Jorge Campos.
Biggest lesson from sport?
Failure is necessary.
Toughest decision you made?
Taking a break from soccer for a little while.
Best advice you received?
Why not you?
Best career advice you ever gotten?
You don't have to do it like anybody else.
What keeps you motivated today? Earlier you said your kids.
Doing it our own way keeps me motivated.
If you could have a dinner with a historical soccer player, who will it be and why?
Lev Yashin. I'd like to understand how you could be a line keeper in the modern game, because I think he still could be.
Nice. Alex Lubyansky, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insight.
Sid, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.
If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
I have all the social media now. Twitter, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, TikTok, email, all of them.
Great. And to our listeners, I leave you with a few words from Johan Cruyff. He once said, football is simple, but the hardest thing is to play a simple football. Again, for us here in Europe, it's football. For America, it's soccer. We want to thank you for joining our show. If you enjoyed this episode, we have more for you. You can now watch the entire episode on our YouTube and Spotify channels. While you're here, subscribe and don't forget to tap the bell. Visit prezerosportstalk.com to explore more conversations on sports, leadership, faith, performance, and innovation. From Sweden to the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and make a difference. We'll see you soon. Take care.